Was that a sneeze or something right before the fanfare? What happened there?
I had to like clear my throat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Like I've been doing all week.
that's it.
Oh, hello and welcome to Momentous Live, episode 138, if you can believe it. I'm Tristan
Wow.
Jutra, and with me is
Mr. Ged Smythe. What's going on?
long time no see.
It has been, as the kids would say, a hot minute.
Our normal 3/4 of the rest of the team are not here today. Tasia is still off for a few weeks. I think she's in a different time zone at the moment.
Mhm.
And Will's at a soccer game. It's an
Okay.
important one. So,
Proper
and then,
footy.
and Gray's under the weather still, unfortunately. We hope to have the band back together at least once or twice before Christmas time. But in the meantime, long overdue. Speaking
Long
of other
overdue.
time zones,
Uh-huh.
a little late at 10 p.m. at night.
I know,
In the Eastern time.
I'm not young, so this is late. Although I must say, I kind of feel like Keanu Reeves in that movie, The Replacements. You know, they years ago they brought him in to play
Yeah.
quarterback. That's how I feel. Like nobody good was available, so I got a message like, "Hey, the pylon I was going to invite is busy directing traffic. Can you jump in?"
Well, our audience thanks you because the last thing they want is just Tristan staring like a deer in the headlights into the down the barrel of the camera. I was like,
Yeah,
what am I
especially with
supposed to
all
do
like
by
the
myself?
blacks and grays you got going on there. It looks like you're gonna go to a midnight screening of Blade 3 later. It's amazing.
Hey, Blade's coming back soon, isn't he? Okay.
So pumped. All right, let's do it.
We've got all sorts of entertainment news to discuss later on since we've got Ged here. A little bit of automotive news, but as a gateway drug into the automotive news, let's start with this week in Elon.
Oh,
or last week, as the case may
oh
be.
boy.
So Tasia and I in our other program, AI Name the Show, we touched on a little bit of this as regards Elon's AI comments when he was at the 2023 Deal Book Summit in New York last Wednesday. And
Mhm.
there was a wide-ranging interview with Ross Andrew Sorkin, a journalist, and talked about AI, talked about some other things, and then they got into advertisers. I think Elon bought Twitter because he's a first principles thinker and he's a free speech absolutist, et cetera, et cetera. Good on you, but he himself should stay off Twitter, now known as X, because like a lot of people, it kind of, especially if you're impulsive, it doesn't do you a lot of favors as regards your public persona,
Yeah.
because you say things without thinking them through. You put your foot in your mouth. You end up amplifying messages that maybe you don't look at all the details and they don't mean what you think they mean. And next thing you know, you're being called an anti-Semite. And even though you're trying to do things to make up for it by hanging out with Netanyahu and et cetera, et cetera. So Twitter's got a content moderation issue. There's still some unsavory stuff that's getting out there. Now, to be fair, he has been a little upset with some activist organizations, such as Media Matters, the Anti-Defamation League, and others, who have been doing things like setting up brand new accounts and then going and following a whole bunch of like quasi-radical or far-right accounts, and then hitting refresh until they see an advertiser ad up there. And then they can grab a screenshot and say, hey, Nike, guess what? Your ads are showing up next to hate speech. And so they're kind of creating these artificial conditions, which actually happen pretty rarely by all accounts in the real world. But there's these campaigns by people who don't like Elon because of some of the things he's said and done over the years. And so he has taken this personally. So, and as such, because of some recent shenanigans by his comments and otherwise, a whole bunch of advertisers have left, including Apple and several others, and Disney and so on. And so when asked about this at this Deal Book Summit, which has to, it's a media event, and he scoffed at advertisers leaving the platform because of some of these problematic things. And he basically said, if somebody's going to try and blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go F yourself.
Right, hold on. We need to like hold. We need to stop right here for a moment. What I couldn't understand is because I watched it, and I've kind of followed this from a distance because to me, Elon Musk, as much as I myself drive a Tesla and love the product, he's kind of he's my version of a solar eclipse. Like I don't spend much time staring at Elon Musk because I'm worried that I myself am going to get tarnished.
You're going to get burned.
What I don't understand is explain to me the blackmail part. Like, it almost seems like he got his words mixed up. Like, I understand if advertisers are going to boycott him like that, but what is this blackmail thing? Like, what they have pictures of him doing something unholy in the city of Jerusalem a few years ago? Like, where does this come from? Like,
yeah, I think it's
the
just
part that blows my mind.
Yeah, probably not the best choice of words, but like bully could be one thing. So
Bully,
basically,
okay, yeah,
because he basically feels like that he's being victimized, because nothing like the richest man in the world to be, one to be victimized, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he's just using like $100 bills to blow his nose and clean his eyes.
Exactly. And I think we can all agree that Elon has pushed a number of industries forward, like a great deal, including the EV market,
of course,
rocketry, and so on. Things he's been doing with Neuralink and the Boring Company and Hyperloop. So many things going on.
Neuralink's super fascinating.
Yeah. But, he gets in, and a lot of those things are engineering challenges, right? And he is an engineering minded guy, not necessarily the most socially adept kind of guy. And he's admitted that. He pokes fun at himself, and he was on SNL. That was the butt of a lot of the jokes, that whole setup. So maybe the word blackmail wasn't appropriate. But let me just finish the performance here.
Okay, yeah.
If somebody's going to try and blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go F yourself. And he didn't say F. He said,
I saw it. It's amazing.
But this is family viewing here.
Yeah.
Go F yourself. Is that clear? Just in case anyone missed it.
Yeah.
Musk. And then he said, hi, Bob. Of course, kind of as reference to Bob Iger, the past and now current, once again, CEO of Disney, who had pulled their ads, and kind of like a little reference to them. So, and he's like, just a big F you to advertisers. And I think that's a little, I don't know, it's a little severe. Like, people have concerns. He honestly, watching the interview, he didn't seem right. There's whether he was on ketamine or what, he's admitted to ketamine use. He looked really pale. He seemed a bit scattered. I was actually a little concerned for his health. He was dressed like like he was piloting a B-17 bomber or something.
He looked like an extra from the original Top Gun who never got out of costume.
Exactly. So, what are your thoughts? Like, I mean, has Elon lost the plot? I mean, there was a few days later, there was an event which we'll get into in a moment. Speaking of Tesla, but this whole thing, like, the advertisers are the main customers of Twitter. So he's trying to get subscriber business, but I think they're even realizing at X/Twitter that you're only going to get, if at best, a couple $100 million of subscriber revenue versus the billions you can get from advertising, even though Twitter has never really, really made money, like any profit in a sustainable way. So some people feel like he's self-immolating on purpose to drive the value down so he can take major tax write-offs and, get a deal, refinance the debt and all this kind of stuff. Like, with the behavior you've observed from a distance and these more recent developments, do you think like it's just like, it's like the Lethal Weapon, I'm putting the shotgun in my mouth, move and let's see if people like try and, actually wake up and try and help rather than constantly targeting and hurting his platform, as he claims?
I see this through an interesting lens. Elon Musk has become the human embodiment of X. The thing you love about Twitter, the thing you love about Twitter is you can literally go on and show and say and do whatever you want. It is the epitome of, I don't even want to use the term free speech, but it is the Wild West of social media. And now there's this human being, which is the embodiment of this platform. And the irony or the poetry in all of this is people are now hammering him for the same thing. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of the human being himself. Obviously, I love what he has done for so many kind of cool different industries. But like, the irony of this, for me, is just too much, because this is literally his platform. Unwell. Have you been? I haven't been on Twitter X in months because it is mentally unwell as a platform. If there was a case for being disturbed, it would literally be the platform X. So, do I think he's off his rocker? Of course I do. but so is the entire platform. If Disney and major advertisers, the Disneys of the world, what are you doing on a platform where you can literally show naked pictures and anything else on? Like, I understand,
That's what
Facebook.
Tumblr's for. Come on.
Right, but like I understand, Facebook and Instagram and hell, even Snapchat now. But if you're an advertiser like Disney and you're going to advertise on the platform Twitter or X, I will keep this family appropriate, but F around and find out. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, give your head a shake. There are people at these companies that are now boycotting X that easily knew exactly what that platform was like and who was running it. I'm surprised this is even news. It should have been like, finally, Disney realizes this is not a safe space for their advertising. The end. Like, I don't understand how this is even a thing.
Which kind of raises the question. It's not like Twitter all of a sudden got bad when Musk took over. There were some changes, but it's been described as a toxic hell site for years and years.
Yep.
But only now, because of certain things that he has, said and done, or some other, like I said, some of these activist maneuvers by these organizations. Now they're pulling out, and it's just
the
like,
only
it's never
mainstream
been
social media you can go look up pictures of naked people on. If Nike, Disney are going to put their stuff, like, I'm sorry, like, we are two normally functioning males.
I'll speak for yourself.
Every human being has jumped on Twitter, been like, naked something. You could never do that on anything else. Like, again, like,
to be fair, that's never come across my mind, but I guess things are different in the Eastern time zone. Maybe it's you get more cold weather there and you need something to do, but
the point I'm making is there's no rules.
Right.
So
there are less rules
Disney
now.
And then complain that it's unhinged.
Yeah.
It was always unhinged.
And to one of the key things that I think we may have discussed this in the past on the show is that Twitter has always had this outsized influence and stature in popular culture because of who's on it. When you compare its size, like as of a couple of years ago, it only had like 350 million monthly active users, compared to like pushing like 2 billion on Facebook, and almost over 1 billion on Instagram, and of course like just as many on YouTube. So why are so many people obsessed with Twitter? Well, you think about who or some of the key people on there traditionally have been like journalists, celebrities, athletes, musicians. So a lot of people who are politicians and news junkies, right? So there's this whole ecosystem of news makers and news reporters. And for the longest time, it was kind of like the real-time breaking news platform pulse of the web. And it's still that to a certain extent, although there's a lot of key people have disappeared and they've moved to Threads or other places that, are. Lots of people have tried to reinvent Twitter, whether it's Blue Sky or T2 or Threads and Mastodon, where all the tech nerds are now. And no one has the same stature as X still has. So, but the thing is, like, it seems like it's in a bit of a death spiral, because you're losing users, and the ones who remain are. It's going to be kind of boring if all the people who are left on X are like Elon Musk stands, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's just going to be like a PR mouthpiece for his companies, and that's fine and all, but that doesn't hold a broad appeal for all these other folks. So, like, if I were him, if I'd taken over, if I'd bought Twitter and spent $44 billion of my own money, I would have maybe catered to those power users and like figured out tools to help them make their jobs easier on the platform, et cetera, catered to the advertisers. If I had free speech, certain very specific free speech principles, as Elon did, I might, try to navigate a way through that and have some really mindful moderation. He always said, well, they're just going to abide by the rules of each country. Okay. There are no hate speech laws in the US, for example, but a lot of countries there are. So how are you going to figure that one out? Are you going to geo-block certain stuff? So it's a complicated problem. Okay, you're an engineer, set your engineering team on those kind of problems, but try to, stay out of the news making yourself, because the way he's gone, like he was the darling of the left for so long, being like the champion of electric vehicles. And now, because he's been red pilled or whatever you want to call it, and he's more libertarian minded and, sort of supporting some conservative people now and then. And he's unchained, right? Like he has a mixture of political views. And that confuses people because people want to put people on a box. You're on the left or you're on the right, right? It's like, and he doesn't play that game, but he's being coded as right. And at this point, and so a lot of people are like, well, he's persona non grata now, which is compounded by the fact that he does crazy things and says crazy things. So
and he's legit crazy.
But
he is Twitter.
He is, yeah. He's become the id of the internet.
Yep.
Well, but it's that kind of id, Ged, that brings us things like the Cybertruck. Finally, after 4 years, we're starting to have some deliveries. They had an event the other day, the delivery event, where I think they had delivered literally like 10 of them to some of the early customers, including Alexis Ohanian, who is one of the original co-founders of Reddit. And we're starting to see some reviews popping up on YouTube and other places. We had MKBHD having a pretty in-depth look at the Cybertruck. The event itself was a little chaotic. Of course, Musk doesn't seem to prepare all that much, which is unfortunate. He decided at the last minute he was going to jump up in the bed of the truck. I do like this line: "The future should look like the future." I mean, that is kind of cool because this is a very futuristic looking vehicle. I mean, it also
it also shows the line of the two people that love the car world. There are two main people that love the car world: the people that want to see car look the exact same for the next 2,000 years and complain when things look differently.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side that is sick and tired of things looking the exact same.
Yeah.
And that is a perfect statement to what he's trying to accomplish from a car perspective. And I'm here for it.
Yeah. And that criticism is often leveled against Teslas themselves, because when you look at a Model S and a Model 3 and a Model X and a Model Y, they're kind of the same. And especially when you're somewhere in Vancouver, like I am, there's so many of them, and the market's getting really saturated, especially since so many people are just getting like the base price color. So there's so many white ones. There's a few black ones and a couple of silver ones and a couple of red ones, and then some custom wraps. But you're basically, if you're getting a Tesla, unless you've got tons of money, you're going to look like you have the same car as pretty much everyone else. And some people are kind of rebelling at that a little bit, at least in some markets, like in a lot of very liberal cities, traditionally liberal cities. But now that's easing off, and maybe we'll start getting some of the Elon Musk fans will be getting them, and maybe they'll do something different. They don't care as much. Who knows? But there is that saturation danger. It's kind of like with iPhones, for example. It's got an iPhone, so some people want to go and get some wacky Android phone from China, so they stand out a little bit. There's always a little bit of signaling. Anyway, back to my earlier point about his winging it in the presentation itself. He got up and stood, and he decided to stand in the bed of the truck to give his presentation. Well, that wasn't part of the plan, and the lighting wasn't set up for him, so it's like his top half of his body was in darkness. It's like, dude. And obviously he hadn't rehearsed all that much, so it was a little chaotic, like usual with the presentation. I mean, there was some good stuff. They kind of recapped some of the some of the features. They did a recreation of the trying to break the window. They did it with a softball this time, and of course it didn't break. And they showed a video clip of some firing a gun at it to demonstrate the bulletproof stainless steel. They showed a video of drag racing a Porsche 911 and
pulling a 911.
Exactly, right. So that was a big reveal.
Cool. That is a flex right there.
Yeah. So, and there's some interesting notes about the differences between Cybertruck now and 4 years ago when it was first announced, and you had 1 million people putting their $100 deposits down. We'll see how many of those people actually order at this point, especially since it'll take years to fulfill all those orders. Yep. But we've got it's slightly smaller. It's got it still doesn't have, it doesn't have the side view mirrors, or no, it does have side view mirrors now because that was a regulation thing. It's got an amazingly tight turning radius. Apparently the turning radius is tighter than a Model S, which is kind of cool. So even though this is a large vehicle, it's a bit smaller than a Ford F-150 Lightning, but it's got quite a presence. But apparently it handles very much like other Teslas, which is kind of cool. So there's that weird kind of contrast, like something that looks so aggressive and can be, so utilitarian, and it's meant to be a truck, But Musk took pains to say, well, it's not just a showpiece; it actually has utility. But to be fair, it's quite the showpiece because it's going to turn heads when you start seeing those in your neighborhood. I wonder if there's going to be how much antipathy there's going to be towards them. People like, how Hummers, like they're cool for a little bit. And then after didn't take very long for people like, ugh, Hummers, over, conspicuous consumption, blah, 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 gas guzzlers. I mean, this isn't a gas guzzler. It's an EV. So you don't have that criticism, but you may be a little ostentatious. The truck bed they've decided to, they've got a coating now.
It's 6 feet too, which is interesting. I have we have the car and we have an F-150 now. And my back bed is the stock kind of 5.5 feet. I was pleasantly surprised when I saw this thing had a back bed that was 6 feet.
Yeah. You could fill it with dirt. You could, was it one of the...
Go to Home Depot and stack a bunch of Husky units on it and try and have them not blow out of the back when you drive home like I did today.
What?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So there were 3 trim levels that they announced, 3 versions. There is the cheapest of the batch, a single motor rear wheel version with 250 miles of range, a 6.9 second 0 to 60 miles per hour acceleration rate, and a $61,000.
Great.
Yeah. 61K US base price. Of course, that's not going to be available until 2025. This is typical. They start with the high end and then the low end comes out later, right? They've got a dual motor, all-wheel drive version, and then the Cyberbeast, which has 3. It's the triple motor version, and of course, Tesla's going to Tesla the Cyberbeast. There are some comparisons have come out online comparing the Cyberbeast trim level to, say, the F-150 Lightning Platinum and the Rivian RT1, the quad motor version, all-wheel drive. And the weight is a little bit lower than both. Maximum towing capacity is the same as the Rivian, but lower than the F-150 Lightning. Length is a bit... it's in between the two. The height is less than both of them. Top speed blows them both away. 130 miles per hour top speed. Talking about the Beast. And the Beast can go, 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds?
Why?
I mean, it's great for marketing, I suppose, but who actually wants that in a truck?
That's about it. I hope there's nothing in the back bed because you're going to leave it at the lights.
Yeah. So... with all of this in mind, it's a lot to digest. Of course, you've got aftermarket. This is going to be modded to like all get out. Elon said this is we're the number 1 purveyors of post-apocalyptic vehicles. It's got the biohazard HEPA filters, like all that jazz. Like there's so many specs you can check out, and there's lots of videos to check out. But what is now that it's kind of a bit more real now than it was 4 years ago, and they're slowly starting to deliver some. What is your gut reaction to all this? Do you think it's actually going to be a phenomenon? Are there enough people who are going to do it? Is this like a lot of smoke? Is it like unnecessary? Or is this actually filling a gap in the market that, has yet to be addressed, even though we've got like the Rivians and the F-150 Lightnings of the world, which, a lot of the sales of EVs are kind of like sort of plateauing a little bit at this point. Is this exactly what the EV market needs to shake things up yet?
Well, this is not going to shake it up. This is going to be the extreme of like the me guys in the world who have trucks. So regardless of what they say the towing capacity is going to be, I cannot imagine anybody towing with an electric truck with any type of distance in mind. I mean, if you're towing from one side of where I live in Guelph to the other, sure. But right now, electric trucks are geared for people like myself who are never going to tow things. They just need the space to move stuff around. All this does is make you the coolest guy who doesn't need a truck, who drives a truck. and that's okay. Like I've driven the F-150 Lightning. It's a very nice vehicle. I've had a chance to kind of drive a few kind of different pieces, and this is to truck the way Tesla was to EV when it first launched. Like you can drive a Nissan Leaf, or you can drive a Model 3, which goes faster than you need to go. And people with the ability to get one said, I want to get that. Now it's the same thing with the Cybertruck. It is a post-apocalyptic cyberpunk looking truck that goes way faster than any human being needs to travel off the line. But yeah, it's got some space. I can't wait to see what the space is like kind of for the back seats if it has a 6-foot bed. But this is going to be the evolution of your Tesla driver. So it's going to be the person that is living in the city, that likes to drive a truck, that has gone into the EV market, and this kind of allows them to have their cake and eat it too. I could never imagine a day where friends of mine that are developers, that are, construction guys, that are, that are building houses. I can never see a day where they're like, yeah, I'm gonna take my Cybertruck to Sudbury and haul some stuff up there. Like it's just never gonna happen.
One of the things, to their credit, that Tesla has done with the development and of course the marketing of their vehicles is they've made them so that they don't seem like they're pennants, right? Like for the longest time, like with there was the GM EV1, which was a weird little EV that didn't do very well, and that was the whole subject of who killed the electric car, back in the day. Then we had hybrids like the Prius, which were fine. Early models are like,
So ugly.
It's like, if you're Ed Begley Jr., cool. But if you're anyone else, especially if you're trying to address a bit more of, say, a typically masculine sort of market, then you come out with the Model S. It's like a high-end sedan, at least in some respects. Fit and finish is another discussion. They've worked on that over the years. The Model X, the high-end SUV, and then you've got the 3 for the sedan, and the Y, which is I predicted long ago was going to be a monster because, like in sales, because that's what people were waiting for.
And they nailed it.
Exactly. So like a compact, crossover SUV that's got all the Tesla bells and whistles and the great range and all that kind of thing. So they for a time they made EVs cool. Again, there's the Elon factor, which has, sullied that reputation in some people's minds. They paved the way for others, such as, Volkswagen to finally get off their butts. New startups like Rivian and Lucid and others to be doing some interesting. China has tons of EV brands we've never even heard of.
And they attack EVs very different than us. They go after the inexpensive small piece, right? Whereas we're trying to make them bigger, faster, and the ability to haul stuff.
Yeah, the typical North American, wide open country.
I think, not that I want to tangent too far at this, but I think North America really missed, because the North America got so hung up on the SUV and the truck. Obviously, I mean, go back, if we all had a crystal ball, they should have gone to the small car market. They should have stayed in that lane. Especially if you could offer it at a price effective model, right? Like,
well, yeah, and that's for cities, especially the whole city car concept. I mean, Smart had their approach at it. We've had the Fiat 500s, but the market kind of dictates when you've got people with families, for example, like what North American living with more space. We don't have the typical European cities that were designed originally for walking. So they're not super car friendly. Maybe you can, handle bikes in them and whatnot. So, but here, because, we had the wide open spaces of North America, and things were really, designed around the automobile with the interstate highways across the United States and whatnot. So the open road, we had the huge cars of the 60s and 70s. And then, we had the oil crisis. So things got small, and we started to embrace smaller Japanese imports. But then when that kind of loosened up again, like you said, we went to minivans and then SUVs, pickup trucks. Ford F-150 has been the biggest selling vehicle in North America for a long, long time now. And how many people that drive Ford F-150s are in the biz and are actually using all those features? So it's the same kind of thing. But so like you said, there's no going back. There, right? Like,
I think that the EV world in general in Canada could have been more successful if they marketed it as your second vehicle.
Well, it just so happens that our second vehicle is an EV, and I think I may have told you this, and I'll get into it more when it comes to
ours. We have the truck, and we have the Model 3, right? Like, to me, that was such a great approach. I think that all you do is you confuse the consumer when you say, here's your big family vehicle for trips, and it can only go X amount of kilometers. Well, of course you're going to confuse the end user. Like, that's what was going to happen.
Unless you want to pay top dollar for a longer range,
It's still,
vehicle,
I mean,
and then you're pushing 100K in some cases. Yeah.
In our climate, it's still, I mean, the amount of battery degradation in the winter, like it's a real thing, and that's okay.
So we'll put a pin in that, because one of my picks of the week is actually just on that very topic.
I love it.
So now Tesla wasn't the only one who had a little bit of news. We've been, oddly enough, Toyota seems to have been very late to the EV game, which is surprising given how early they were with hybrids, with the Prius, and then hybrid versions of so many of their vehicles, including the Camry and the Highlander and the RAV4. They've got plug-in hybrids. So they've got the BZ4X or something, which is an EV, which is a kind of late to the party.
Yep.
Well, Toyota's just recently revealed 2 new EV concepts, not actually shipping vehicles yet, as it plods along its path to electrification.
But now, and there's a specific reason for that, though.
Well, take it away, because these are for the European market by 2026. So these aren't even anytime soon, Gad. What's going on with Toyota?
So Toyota's been very late to the market for a couple of reasons. They are very strong believers in their hybrid and also their plug-in assist. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to drive one of their prime vehicles. That's the without a doubt the single greatest driving technology we have in this continent, flat out. It is the fully electric assisted internal combustion engine vehicles. Our neighbor across the street has a RAV Prime. She fills it up for her $60-$70. It goes 1,300 kilometers, averages 3.5 liters per 100 kilometers. They've got this technology down to a T, and they're expanding it out through their line. The bigwigs at Toyota have always been of the mindset that going full battery is a dangerous and bad idea. And now, as you're starting to see the EV world shift, the guy, what's his name? Toyota's like, I told you so. However, there is the need for these. So Toyota has released their EV. They have that BXZ4, which is fine, but they've been working on a solid state battery. And I think I talked about it on the show a year or so ago. That would dramatically change the battery degradation. So it would be a solid state battery. It would last longer. They're going to be rated at like 620 miles. But they're taking their time to develop this battery before they drop these pieces.
Yeah, they're playing the long game, and I guess they're counting on the fact that they've got such a good reputation for quality that people will wait. They've got, they've been dripping out the hybrids, the plug-in hybrids, et cetera, as time goes on.
It's so good,
pretty expensive, when you get there, and complex. That's the criticism. One of the knocks against hybrids is that now you've got 2 systems in a vehicle, so that's extra cost and extra complexity. One of the appeals of EVs was that you didn't have to worry about the traditional ICE, drivetrain and all the maintenance associated with that. So and now, is this going to be the best of both worlds or the worst of both worlds?
And that's a question it's almost going to be impossible to answer, because it's all going to depend on the user experience. I mean, my experience with it firsthand has been very limited, but my goodness, you sip fuel and you can drive. You can go an entire tank of gas. And if you cannot charge, that's okay. You can still put gas in your vehicle and you can get home. But if you have the ability to plug in and charge somewhere, it's got a small battery. It doesn't take super long to charge up. And then, like I said, like in the summer, she got it down to like 2.8 liters per 100 kilometers driving around town. Like, it is astronomical. It's like 1,400 kilometers on a tank of gas.
Now, that's the RAV4 Prime. I know that there's been a few these plug-in hybrids. There's the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid that's been around for a few years as well. And it's got a pretty, I think we can get like maybe 70 kilometers of range on the battery alone on that. Do you have any idea what the range is like on the RAV4 Prime, just electric only? It's
about that.
Yeah, okay.
But what makes Toyota so good is they've figured out how to mix energy and fuel well. And that is what makes it special. Yes, other companies on the market have done it. Many did it. They had a PHEV Countryman, and I'm a Mini fan. But nobody has figured out that mixture of energy the way that Toyota has.
And when you say PHEV, that's plug-in hybrid electric vehicle for those playing at home.
Yeah. And yeah, you can drive it in just electric. Or you can drive it to use like internal combustion. You do have to run the ICE engine. If you don't, your fuel will gunk up the engine and destroy it. It once like happened to somebody out in your neck of the woods, actually, when they first launched the PHEV in Vancouver. A client bought it, and 6 months later came back with a massive engine problem, and they had never used the gas
because they weren't taking it on the highway, or
they drove 5 kilometers to work, so they just trotted along.
And I think for a lot of regular folks, especially since range anxiety is still a thing, that this sort of approach makes sense, because not everyone has the privilege or the parking space to have 2 vehicles. Yep. So if you're going to have one, a plug-in hybrid is like, you can do your city driving probably almost 100% on battery, which is very cost effective. And but you're still good to go for longer drives, road trips, etc. Or, you take that anxiety away if you're out longer than you expect, and, doing all sorts of side trips and whatnot. So I think for a lot of people, that is still the answer. And because there are so many online skeptics about EVs, and some of them have been like, their minds have been poisoned by, disinformation, misinformation online and whatnot. But there's like this whole weird, culture war that gets associated with this stuff. 2 people get in their camps. Everything has to get politicized, which is a little unfortunate. But I see for a lot of regular folks, especially single car families, if you want to, enjoy the benefits of EVs, but want the security blanket of that range and the regular kind of engine, the hybrid is the way to go. But again, not cheap.
No, it's not. And don't get me wrong. I mean, you and I both know that I am an EV fan, but this is a fantastic alternative for those that are looking to dabble in it, and like you said, are a single car family.
Well, the nice thing about the plug-in hybrids, unlike the regular hybrids, is that they are available for certain federal and provincial tax credits, and I imagine in the States as well, there'll be certain tax credits that that are available to them as well. So
it's green plated, so out here in Ontario, you can drive in the carpool lane.
Yes. Okay. Here's the thing. Like, we have little stupid OK stickers here in BC for putting on EVs and plug-in hybrids as well, and we get to use the HOV lane. What happens when too many cars are EVs and plug-in hybrids? Like, and that lane starts getting chunked. Are they going to, like, if it's a 3-lane highway, are they going to make 2 of the lanes HOV lanes now? Like, what's going to happen there?
I've seen them. I've seen 2 once. There is a spot in a highway that has 2. It doesn't happen.
Right.
I mean, maybe that's a one day down the road problem, but
well, another problem one day down the road is going to be the whole the government revenue drying up from gas taxes, right? So now that everyone's been like, okay, EV is great, now they're going to start having to like tax electricity more, especially as the demand goes up. Like, you just think a little down the road a little further, and oh boy. But so back to the larger issue regarding EVs, there's an article we'll have a link to from The Verge. It's from early in November, talking about the mixed signals that we are getting from the EV market. Some reports you hear saying that sales have plateaued for a lot of things. Ford seemed to have caught up with their pre-orders for the F-150 Lightning, and there's other car makers that are like, oh wow, what happened to this demand? And in the meantime, you're also getting, hearing things like how EV sales are like at record numbers. So multiple things can be true at once, but a lot of those record numbers have been driven by the early adopters, by the affluent, by people who have been taking advantage of tax credits, people who are, sort of environmentally inclined towards them and whatnot. But I think we're at the point in the technology adoption curve where there's a couple of books by Jeffrey Moore. One is called Crossing the Chasm, and there's a classic technology adoption curve where you have you've got your innovators, your so-called innovators, you've got your early adopters, you've got your early majority, and you've got your late majority, and then you have your laggards. And there's a gap in this curve where where a lot of technology products, hardware, software, EVs get, they fall down into this chasm. And I'll just find you. The book is quite interesting, Crossing the Chasm. And here's for those who are seeing the video version of this. It's called the Technology Adoption Lifecycle. And I'll just pull it up here. So here, your tech enthusiasts are your early market, and that at best is maybe 16%. Then you've got this chasm before you get to the early majority, and I think we are in this chasm period right now, and a lot of stuff crashes and burns in here, like Twitter. Twitter hasn't never made it to the early majority.
No.
So will EVs cross the chasm and make it to your early majority, your late majority, your pragmatists and your conservatives, and then eventually make it to your skeptics? Which but that's most of your sales. You've got your 68 plus, your 70, almost 80% there, or plus 80% plus is after the chasm. So we have yet to cross the chasm with EVs at this point. And and the rope swing across that chasm might be hybrids and plug-in hybrids, but it's taking longer, I think, than some people expected, because you have some people
taking longer here.
Yeah.
Remember, we are a fossil fuel full rager society.
Coal rolling,
just coal rolling, dinosaur kicking in the face, like this. That is North America. When you leave this continent, it is different. UK EV is through the roof. Asia EV is through the roof. I mean, we won't have a choice to follow suit, because we like to think that we are the innovators. We really are not the innovators. We are following. We are following what the rest of the world dictates. And yes, companies like Rivian and Tesla are going to sit at these big, beautiful, expensive pieces. But in 20 years, you and I are going to have this conversation, and we're going to be driving cars none of us have ever heard of, because they originated from another continent and they got here finally. And driving an EV 250 kilometers around town is going to be the norm. And that's okay.
So we'll see, unless of course we've hit the AI singularity before then, and none of us need to go anywhere because we're just going to be batteries for the machines.
Oh, like in WALL-E.
We'll be the EV batteries.
WALL-E.
All right, let's change gears a little bit. We will eventually get into talking about some fun entertainment stuff, but as a gateway to that, one of the things that I've never really embraced, just for lack of need really, or desire, is a VPN, a virtual private network. I've been a little loosey-goosey with using public Wi-Fi networks, for example. I try to avoid ones that have that don't have a password on them, ones that are insecure. Those generally you might have a bad time. You can get your data, which is transmitted in the clear, snarfed up by potential evildoers. But
that's because you hang out in seedy areas.
Exactly. So, it's easier to get away, so to avoid those sorts of networks if you've got a decent data plan on your phone. You just tether to your phone, and then Bob's your uncle. Recently, I don't remember why, but I've just been a bit more conscious on the road. So I actually downloaded Proton VPN, which has a free option for some basic VPN coverage, and Proton Mail is quite well regarded in terms of a private secure email service. So I thought Proton VPN would be good. I didn't want to pay. They had a free version, only a couple of international servers, but that was fine. And it was more so for the protection of when wanting to use an unsecured Wi-Fi network. Some people use VPNs, on the other hand, to, again, spoof their locations so they can access, let's say, a much larger Netflix catalog in the United States if you're a Canadian user, or if you want to access UK BBC iPlayer programming and make it look like you're in the UK to access. So that has been a thing that people wanted to do for a long time. I personally still have so much streaming stuff to watch that's available in Canada that really hasn't been a priority for me.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I haven't explored that is because most of the streaming I consume is not on my computer or even on my iPhone or iPad, but it's on our large screen TV. You're a home theater guy, you want to watch this stuff on your big screen at home.
Correct.
So as such, we use Apple TV, and there hasn't really been a super easy way to use a VPN with Apple TV. You could configure things on your router. There's some hacks, but it's never been that great. However, with the advent of tvOS 17, which is what the newer Apple TVs run on now. And there's this update that just happened a couple of months ago. It is open things up to allow for the running of VPN software. And ExpressVPN is the largest company so far to take advantage of VPN support, now available in tvOS 17.
I did not know that.
So, Ged, have you ever been a VPN guy? Have you longed to taste the delights available only to those outside of Canada for movies and TV shows?
No, you and I are very similar. I still have. I haven't even started Yellowstone yet. Like, I have not watched a lot of TV.
Available now on Paramount Plus.
I know. I'm terrible that way. I'm actually not watching a lot as of the last year and a half or so.
And maybe we'll find out why in a little bit.
I do, however, have like friends in the home theater community that are going to go bananas for this, because there is, especially a lot of my friends that are kind of UK based or from the UK, or, grew up in England. And yeah, I mean, this is fantastic. I didn't know it was going to happen, but other than, really wanting to watch the US version of the Super Bowl, or maybe certain, like BBC Radio does some really cool stuff with, like, artists where they cover other artists' stuff. And I'm a massive music guy, so I love some of the stuff that they've done, and I've never had access to it. But other than that, I mean, I think it's a great step forward for Apple, but it's not like I'm going to run out and get myself an ExpressVPN. What about you? Are you going to dabble in it? Or are you going to go back and watch all the Coronation Streets ever? Or I don't really know what else people would be ready to watch.
All that stuff. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
probably not, unless, of course, if Proton VPN makes a tvOS app, I might be inclined to put it on there and turn it on once in a while if there's something that I really can't get. Like, I guess we're a little bad with money here. We have way too many streaming services here, Momentous HQ.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's just, there's no lack of them, right?
Exactly. So there's very rarely is there something we want to watch that's not available. Sometimes we got to go to rental or purchase, but it almost feels like, oh, you're wasting money, because a lot of these shows will be on streaming eventually anyhow. Speaking of Paramount Plus, I find one of the best ways to try out Paramount Plus is to try to do the free trial for a week and then forget to cancel, and then you paid for a year. There you go.
I've heard that's very effective. I was looking at doing the same thing actually recently.
Yeah,
it was Halo. Halo got you, didn't it?
No, it was actually
Halo TV show.
I still have yet to check that out. For us, we were binging all the Mission Impossible movies before we went and saw Dead Reckoning Part 1, and they were only on Paramount Plus at the time. I think they showed up like on Netflix a week later, but we were binging them and we didn't get through them all in time. And then I forgot I was going to cancel. And
you could have sent me a message. I would have given you my Apple access because I have them.
It's quite all right. But the thing is, now that we've got Paramount Plus, there's actually lots of really good stuff on it.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, so that's how they get you, man. So now, when it comes time to renew, like, I've already canceled it. The great thing when you subscribe to a lot of these services, you can cancel right away, and then it won't actually take effect until your date is up, right? So, but I should have done that with the free trial, and I never did.
Is it expensive?
I think it's like 120 Canadian a year or something like that. So $10 a month. But all those things add up. We got Netflix, we got Apple TV Plus, we've got Paramount Plus, we've still got our cable package, we've got Prime Video. Yeah, Crave too. It's like, oh my goodness, I really need to do a cull. In this economy, come on.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. So if there's, like, again, I don't really see a huge need to go and start paying for a VPN. I would use a trusted free version. I think Proton VPN, if they were to be available for Apple TV, they would probably only make it available for premium subscribers. And at which point I'd be like, if there's something I needed to binge, maybe I would, do it for a bit. But again, I think our bigger priority is maybe start cutting back on some of those other services. But speaking of digital, moving from digital streaming to digital purchases,
there's petrifying.
There was a couple of things that have happened with PlayStation users the last couple of weeks. One was that some people found themselves getting their accounts disappeared for no apparent reason, and then they were restored. But otherwise, there was a bunch of people who had purchased content through the PlayStation Store, specifically from Discovery, and they had merged with Warner. But there's some stuff for licensing due to licensing deals. shows or movies that people had purchased, digital purchase, that will be disappearing as of December 31st.
That's insane.
And of course, if you read the fine print for any of these things, it's like, well, you're not actually buying it. You don't actually own it. It's actually a license, et cetera, et cetera. So, one could, say, well, you should have known better, et cetera, et cetera. Now, to be fair, there's I know a few people that do lots of purchases through Apple, for example. And from what I've heard, it's been pretty good. Like, people have bought stuff for years and years, TV shows and movies. And, formerly through Apple Movies and Apple TV, now through Apple TV Plus, which is kind of glommed them all together with their streaming service, which confuses people. But there were a couple of hiccups, but apparently those got resolved. I have yet to hear of any wide scale cases of people losing access to content purchased through Apple that they have lost access to. I'm not sure what for Google Play Store, probably similar as well, but PlayStation, Sony, that's the flagship thing. And this is a little bit of a black eye for them. I'm not sure how many people would have bought content from Discovery. Quite honestly, there's a lot of reality TV, a lot of nature stuff, and whatnot. But still, that's got to sing. And they issued no apology. They issued no offer of refunds or anything like that. They probably don't want to admit culpability because that could get expensive if other things should happen in the future, and maybe their licensing arrangements weren't that great with the various studios. So my question to you, Ged, is, with this, are you the kind of person that buys these like digital media, whether it's music or books or movies or TV shows, or are you more of a physical media person because, should the apocalypse come, you want all that stuff on hand to pop into your Blu-ray player running off of your generator?
Well, I am 100% a physical media watcher, especially for movies I am going to purchase. Now, there are exceptions to that. If there are movies I wouldn't mind having around, or I know are getting a 4K update, then I would consider buying them if they're on sale. Like, I bought all the Spider-Man on sale, even though I love the Spider-Man movies. All of them were on sale. There's like 7 of them there on sale for $39.
Digital versions.
All digital versions.
Through whom?
So through Apple.
Okay.
So when stuff like that pops up, The Matrix I purchased because I really wanted the physical media copies, but they were like $130 at the time.
You got
and
the
they
4K
went on sale
ones?
for $29, and I was a bottle and a half of wine in, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy these. So I did. I have a friend who has about 350 purchased titles though. When I read that article, he's crazy about buying digital media, and he's very kind. He shares his access, so it's kind of nice to be able to watch them. But obviously, I mean, it goes without saying the main reason why I watch physical media is purely data driven. A 4K stream is 25 megabits per second. A 4K disc stream is up to 120 megabits per second. An audio stream in digital is 768 kilobits. And a full Atmos audio stream on disc can be 14,000 kilobits.
You're speaking my language, brother.
Like, that is so much. That is so much. And we actually have a thing on here, which we'll talk about because it's about Oppenheimer. But I went out and bought Gran Turismo because you should never turn on an exhaust note in compressed audio. It is so magical and so real.
You need uncompressed for the win.
Uncompressed for the win. But it is scary. Like, I don't buy a ton of them. I got most of my Apple ones when you bought physical media. For a long time, you got a digital code, and you could decide if you were going to redeem it in Google or an Apple.
Right.
So I would buy a movie, and I'd redeem the digital code and get it on my iTunes.
Yep.
But now they're starting to get real picky. So, like, I have movies in my Google Play Store that I will never open because when I redeem my digital code, that was the only option.
Gotcha. I think the music equivalent of that compressed versus uncompressed for me was the Perfect Drug by 9 Inch Nails. There's the breakdown, the weird percussion breakdown, where if you hear it in like sloppy 128 kilobit MP3 versus off of the CD, whatever, it's just because it's very intense and there's a lot going on, and it just gets muddy and gross.
Have you listened to Apple's master files?
I have not, because I don't
So
really have the kind of audio gear either at a stereo or at headphones to appreciate that. Even the AirPods Max doesn't do uncompressed, which is a kick in the teeth
yeah,
because
it's
it wasn't
good.
supported by that Bluetooth profile. So what have you listened to that on?
So a lot of the newer stuff and some of the old classic stuff has all been remastered.
Mhm.
So some of it's in Atmos audio. I mean,
Nice.
that's music is not recorded in surround sound, but that's a different
Yes. Yeah.
argument. But it does sound good. But some of the older pieces that they've gone and remastered, these files are like, if you download them, they're like 70 megs big, 100 megabytes big, 130 megs big. Like they're
Per song.
huge
Yeah.
files
Yeah.
per song.
Yeah.
And I hate to admit it, they sound really good. They have done a very good job. I have auditioned some music downstairs in my theater room on some of these master tracks, and
Mhm.
I mean nothing will beat vinyl. Nothing will ever beat vinyl. It doesn't matter what anybody does because it is
I hear it's
raw.
warmer.
But some of these master files are beautiful,
Were,
absolutely beautiful.
were you being a big music guy? Did you ever go down the DVD audio or SACD route for
Of
any
course,
albums?
of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, absolutely. Sting is my one copy of DVD audio that I have downstairs from like the early 2000s. Desert Rose or whatever it was
Oh
called.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think I
yeah.
must have listened to it like 3,000 times. Yeah.
So for anyone who's paying attention, if you for some reason bought any content through the Sony PlayStation Store over the years, especially Discovery content, try and figure out a way to rip it or download it or get it on your device so it doesn't disappear on you.
Hmm.
There's some exotic ways to do it. Google's your friend. Maybe Chatty G can help you out there too. But
Yeah.
in general, if there's something that's really important to you, if a physical media version is available, DVD, preferably Blu-ray, even more preferably 4K Blu-ray, of course. Um, that's the thing. And I there are certain things that I do like to own. Not a ton. I don't have a huge movie collection, but when I do, I like to get the best possible version. The
Yeah.
problem is you kind of get in this treadmill because for a while, like all those I know people who are VHS collectors,
Yeah.
and then DVD came out, and so they bought everything again on DVD, and then Blu-ray came out, and they bought everything. Well, actually, some of them went down the HDVD path and got burned.
I've owned Top Gun in VHS, DVD, HD DVD, Blu-ray,
Oh
and
my!
4K. The
Oh wow!
crazy thing is now the old movies that they're starting to bring out from these smaller film houses.
Hmm.
I went to buy The Princess Bride the other day. It was on sale for $65 for 4K. I'm like, I want this so bad, but I'm not gonna buy it. Yeah,
Anyone want a peanut?
yeah.
Um,
It's one of the three perfect movies.
I agree. So speaking of physical media, apparently, just a quick hit here. Apparently there's an Oppenheimer shortage.
I tried to buy it the other day and I couldn't buy it.
The Oppenheimer 4K Ultra HD version is like hard to find, which just in time for the holidays.
I went to buy it when I
It's on
picked
my
up
list.
Gran Turismo, and they didn't have any copies, and I was so happy about it.
Oh,
I looked forward to the day where I could go into a movie store again and not be able to find a piece of physical media because it was sold out.
right?
I left. I wasn't even mad. I left so happy. I was like, people are buying discs. You know what?
All right.
Oh, wait. It's amazing. Amazing.
One little fantasy that I have is that someday that they'll do maybe when they move things up to 8K or whatever, um, um, 12-inch like Blu-rays with like full cover art like
Oh
records.
my God.
Because that's the thing that kills me about DVDs, Blu-rays is the tiny little cases. But it's
Yeah.
like that's why one of the reasons people love vinyl is the artwork, the gatefold sleeves and all that. That's why
You know,
laser discs were cool.
I
But laser
never
discs
thought of
are,
that, but that's
480p or 480i,
phenomenal.
right? Unless you're getting weird Japanese ones that are a little
Yeah.
higher def. But
Yeah.
can you imagine like
I would love
Blu-ray,
that. I have
4K
friends who like
Blu-ray
hang
laser
vinyl
disc? Yeah.
as art, and that would
I
just be,
I did that in high school. My wall was
oh my
covered with
God.
Cabaret Voltaire records.
Yeah, I would love that. My basement would look very interesting if I could hang 4K movies like art. That'd be brilliant. Imagine some of the stuff they could do with the Harry Potters of the world and stuff like that. It'd be brilliant.
Got to make it happen. The hipsters will buy it. Oh, the hipsters buying cassettes now, apparently. Vinyl's passe. It's all about cassettes.
Oh, wow. Gonna go get my Walkman with anti-skip.
All right. There was another quick little tangent I had about this whole thing. Oh, right. Speaking of celebrating things being sold out, my friend of the show, Dave, he just posted on Facebook today that he saw, was it Godzilla Zero or something like that? The new kind of like, it's not part of the monster universe that Universal, that Legendary's doing right now, but it's, I think it's actually from Japan. But he went and saw it in the theater and he said it was amazing. He said, support the theaters. Like, I've always been a big fan of getting people into the theater. So like physical media.
I didn't know. Godzilla. Okay, I'm going to check it out.
I think it's called Godzilla Zero or Year Zero or something like that. Speaking of which,
I cannot wait for that Monster Universe to come out in a 4-pack for 4K.
Right.
Cannot wait. I've avoided buying it just so I can buy them all together. I love them.
I haven't done it as momentous pick of the week yet, but have you been watching Monarch Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV Plus?
No.
That's the same universe. That's Kong Skull Island, Godzilla versus Kong. It's a whole backstory about Monarch.
It's called Monarch?
Yeah, Monarch Legacy of Monsters. It's on Apple TV Plus.
Well, anyway, looks like Yellowstone's getting bumped again.
It's not bad so far. It's kind of interesting, the world building, right? And it's got Kurt Russell.
Even though my pick is my pick for this week, I'm definitely going to start this off. You know, we can take 4 seconds on this because we should just do Disney gives up on the Marvels.
Yeah, we'll speed run through a bunch of these entertainment stories. All right, so
did you see it?
I did, and you know what? I actually enjoyed it. I had very low expectations, but I did enjoy Ms. Marvel. Will and I are on the same page there. It was fun.
I don't want to, but I did. Kamala's great.
Yeah, and the trailers were interesting for the Marvels. The first ones were kind of jokey. The later ones got a bit more action oriented and serious. I think it may have been better than Captain Marvel, quite frankly, but apparently it's just tanked, and I don't know how much of that is review bombing. So Disney is now not even releasing its box office numbers anymore, which is kind of sad. It's the lowest in Marvel Studios history. Yeah. What's going on, Ged? Are people just burned out on superhero movies? Are they burned out on Brie Larson? Or is it too many women? Is it misogynist?
No, I think the day of superhero is done. I mean, Marvel
Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did okay.
But that's because Guardians of the Galaxy took the world by storm. It was the movie that should have never done well. And to this day, you can't not smile when you watch it. Guardians of the Galaxy was a fluke, and it was a beautiful fluke. And Guardians 3 tied it off so well because that was a story everybody wanted to see finish from the first 3 phases of Marvel that didn't.
And it had
the first 3 phases of Marvel, those 24 movies, will be the greatest series of movies we will experience in our lifetime, other than Star Wars that started in the 70s, your first 3, and maybe Harry Potter. I mean, it changed cinema. But it's done. It's over. Eternals was a great movie that tanked because people were done with it. I enjoyed Eternals a lot. Yeah, I would have an entire conversation just on Eternals and how they missed the boat there. But I
liked some elements of it, but it didn't hang together for me.
And the backstories.
Yeah,
it would have been like if they started with the movie Avengers. And there was no Iron Man, and there was no Captain America. Anyway, I digress.
I think we're on the same page there. Yeah.
It's not that The Marvels was a bad movie. They've just kicked this dead horse so many times that even though the dead horse looks like Brie Larson, and I'm not against this, and I am here for it. It's just time. It's time to move on.
Well, as we've discussed on recent episodes, that sounds like the video game industry is where we're going to be getting most of our stories from for the next decade or so.
And things that don't look like Marvels have done well. Like Loki was incredible. Andor was phenomenal. Like there's a lot of things that aren't your traditional superhero or traditional universe stuff. That's brilliant because it is different. But 8 years ago, this movie would have dominated.
So with the DC universe being rebooted and under the care and feeding of James Gunn, the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, we are getting more and more details being dripped out over time regarding Superman Legacy, including Nicholas Hoult being cast as Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And we've got Skylar Gisondo, who I'm not familiar with, as Jimmy Olsen. Any quick takes on this so far? How confident are you in James Gunn's vision for the DC universe?
I'm more optimistic now than I was 3 months ago. I look at the characters he's trying to bring in. I know you've got a couple articles on this, so this will feed into this really, really well. It's not bad guy, Superman, Lois. I mean, looking at some of the casting stuff with some of the articles you posted up, Nathan Fillion jumping in as Green Lantern.
Not Hal Jordan. He's going to be like Kyle Gardner, apparently, right? Which is interesting.
I must admit, Olsen, I don't even know the character. Like, I grew up on Superman. Yeah. I love the idea of him revamping something that looks different. Good for him for going away from the kind of the normal run of it. So I feel good about it.
So now the question is, are they going to run into an Eternals problem? Because apparently one of the controversies from in July was apparently Superman Legacy is going to have so many heroes, like you allude to in there, not just Green Lantern, but we've got some pretty deep cut kind of characters such as Metamorpho being played by Anthony Carrigan, who is great as NoHo Hank in the TV series Barry on HBO.
Yep.
We've got Hawk Girl. We've got Mr. Terrific. It's like, do you think this is going to be okay? Or are they going to run into an Eternals problem with introducing too many characters at once?
I think that there's a 50-50 that's going to happen. Or what he's going for is the Guardians of the Galaxy. He's introducing these characters that
like a playful kind of vibe, you think?
Well, it's a playful kind of vibe. And
Super Friends.
Do you know much about Mr. Terrific?
I do not. I know
no
nothing.
one does.
Yeah.
Like I said, I grew up as a Superman Batman fan. I have no idea who this is.
I know more about Captain Carrot and the Amazing Zoo Crew than I do Mr. Terrific. And that's another DC property that is yet to be mined.
And I think that he's taking the Guardians approach. He's going to introduce these characters that most people don't know much about, and he's going to create stories. With the Eternals, there was so much riding on it after the first 3 phases of Marvels. It was doomed before it started.
Right.
I like this approach. I think if there's going to be an issue with it, it's going to be you literally recreated the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, he's going to take that formula and turn it into this.
It almost feels like back on the Marvel side that they've been a little stung, because now a lot of stuff is getting pushed off. Partly was the writer's strike, the actors strike and whatnot, but a lot of things are getting pushed into 2025 and beyond. So maybe even the TV schedule has been slowed down a little bit. Loki season 2, I think was fantastic, I thought, but there's not nearly as much. They came out of the gate swinging hard, back to back. And then, like you said, maybe it's just like the oversaturation, both with the movies and the TV shows.
Yep.
Criticism, maybe Kevin Feige getting spread a little too thin and things weren't holding together as much as they should be. Some quality issues like the CG and She-Hulk, for example. Quantum Mania not being that great. Even Doctor Strange 2 wasn't that great. And so it's uneven. So it'll be interesting to see in this next phase for both Marvel and DC, especially since DC has James Gunn, who was working with Marvel, running things now. And we've got, what's Zack Snyder kind of riding off into the sunset, doing stuff like Rebel Moon, which is coming soon on Netflix.
Zack Snyder.
But this next phase for both of these big comic book franchises, we'll see what happens. But moving from superheroes back to the Star Wars universe, we got a little sad news. Andor season 2 likely delayed to 2025, and I think Andor,
I'm just shocked they did it.
It's a long wait. Because
Andor did not need. So I was on the Rogue Leaders stream a few weeks ago, and we had a conversation about the Ahsoka series versus Andor. It was an entire stream just dedicated to Ahsoka versus Andor. And we both were actually on the exact same page. Andor was a better series, but less warranted a season 2. Andor was so brilliantly done.
It ended nicely.
You could have just ended it, and that could have been it. Ahsoka, obviously, there's so much to tell with the Gods of Mortis and stuff like that. Like, that's stories that have so much more roots. I'm sure you guys covered it at some point with the Ahsoka stuff.
Yep.
but Andor was just so beautifully written. There wasn't a single laser sword. There was no force wielding people. It was a brilliantly written series. They could have just left it. I hope that when season 2 launches, they do it justice, because it's really hard to follow that one up.
The sophomore effort. I mean, Severance is going to have that same kind of problem too. You've got something that's so well received in its first season, like Andor, and season 2 comes like, how can you be anything but
Loki
down,
did it,
right?
Loki nailed it.
Fair.
I was pleasantly surprised at how they took Loki to another level. I was very, very pleasantly surprised.
Agreed. An interesting phenomenon with the Andor and Ahsoka, and I think you might be the perfect age to properly enjoy both of them. But I find people that are getting up toward my age leaned very heavily toward the preference for Andor, and a lot just not getting Ahsoka at all. And whereas people your age and a bit younger who maybe have a slightly better appreciation of the prequels from the 90s and things like Rebels and Bad Batch and all that stuff.
Rebels and Clone Wars.
Clone Wars, all that.
You had to be invested in it.
I watched none of those. So I've heard that Ahsoka, and I enjoyed Ahsoka. I had some issues with it, but I overall enjoyed it. But from
you would have been lost.
Exactly. And I've heard it's like Rebels season 5, basically, right? I watched a bunch of your streams with Rogue Leader as well, too, that helped add some context there.
He's a walking dictionary, that guy. He's so good.
But you know what I'm saying? I think there's a generational divide, but on some of this stuff, right?
Yeah. If you hadn't seen Rebels or Clone Wars, especially Clone Wars, as they got into the gods of Mortis and stuff, and like the symbolism of the owl following her around, like some people went nuts over it. I was definitely one of them. But if you didn't dive in it, you'd be like, why is there a goddamn owl on this planet? Like, what is happening here?
And what's the deal with the space whales?
What is with the space whales? Yeah. Whereas when I saw the space whales, I was like,
right?
Look at what they did.
And so, I mean, Will, obviously, who's a regular on our show, and he was able to fill in some of those blanks for me too. And then reading on some apps, like there's an app called TV Time where I keep track of a lot of shows that I watch, and reading some of the comments on there, it's like, oh, okay, there's a lot of stuff that I'm missing that other people are appreciating. So maybe some of the at the same time, a show to be truly successful should be accessible as well. You shouldn't need to have done a lot of homework, which is one of the criticisms for where we're at with Marvel right now, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit hard for people to get in now unless they go and watch 24 plus movies and TV series and the like. So it's a tricky balancing act, because there's the fan service, but that's going to limit your audience. You're going to open things, and I think that's one of the apparently, as good as Andor was, apparently the audience wasn't huge for us. So I guess people my age will die out eventually, so who cares?
Because you had to watch Rogue One and love Rogue. I
loved Rogue One.
Watched it literally last weekend.
Nice.
It's brilliant. It's so good.
And I think there's part of that is there is the vibe from the original trilogy in the 70s, but there's also a lot of slow burn 70s spy thriller vibe too, which I've been getting back into a lot recently. I don't mind slow movies as long as they're not wasting my time. Movies, TV shows, etc. There's something going on, and that's one of my criticisms of Ahsoka was it felt like there were times where the pace was a bit odd. It was slow in parts where
and then it
didn't need to be slow, and it's like okay, it's just like a lot of glances back and forth and like a lot of not. It's like, let's pick up the pace a little, guy. You're not accomplishing anything with these pauses.
I watched a lot of people run through a firestorm of shooting for far too long. Like, I get it, you're not going to get hit. Just show us getting to the door. It's fine. Yeah, be a lot of shooting. No one's going to get it. All right.
So in another kind of tension, there's
I watched this when you sent it to me.
Something that just came across my desk literally today. I hadn't even heard about it. There is a movie coming out next year called ISS, which, given the current political environment, is kind of interesting. And basically the premise is that there is a bit of a conflagration, military conflagration on Earth, maybe the exchange of some nukes, etc. And you've got Americans and Russians up in the International Space Station, both of who have likely received orders to perhaps take control of said space station, and
By
then
whatever
hilarity
means
ensues.
necessary. Yeah.
I mean, I'm on board. I mean, it looks. I mean, I hope it's not. I hope it's. It might just be space trash, but it looks fun.
It
Like,
looks
what's gonna happen?
it looks like it had, like, I watched a trailer. It had some tense, like, old James Cameron Alien vibes.
Mm-hmm.
It had some gravity types, like cinematography.
Yep.
I love the culmination of where they're going with it. Yeah, I'm in. I'm absolutely gonna watch this. I am intrigued. Yeah.
And the studio, Bleecker Street, I wasn't aware, but there was another movie that they had done that I had seen. Now I can't remember it. It was in the it showed up in one of the suggestions at the end of the YouTube video. We're gonna have to look it up later. But given the pedigree of what they've done previously, I am cautiously optimistic about it. Maybe you can do a real-time lookup on that. But anyway, that's ISS.
Bleecker Street Movies, Lucky 7, Jules.
There was one
Elvis and Nixon.
Well, there was one that stood out for me.
The Art of Self-Defense. What kind of stuff do you watch? The Lost City of Z.
Okay, that is a bit more. I haven't seen that, but that's a bit more high profile. There was what was it?
Bleecker Street Media.
You're checking on IMDb?
No, I just
IMDb.
Actually just Googled it.
Logan Lucky, I think was one of them.
Logan Lucky, yeah.
That's not the one that I was thinking of. Anthropoid, which I believe I've seen. That's like the World War II mission to assassinate an SS general. Hotel Mumbai. Oh, I can't even think of it now. Oh, Eye in the Sky. That's what it was.
Eye in the Sky.
Yeah, good. Tense thriller set in the UK, having to do with drones and satellites and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was a tight thriller. Anyway,
interesting.
So ISS coming next year in space. Are you going to see it in the theater, Ged? Do you do theaters?
Oh, absolutely, whenever possible.
All right. Well, it's about that time for our momentous picks, and then we can wrap this thing up. What's your momentous pick this week?
My momentous pick is Warrior. Warrior is an HBO Crave pick for me. Season 3 was just released. I stumbled onto this by fluke. It's basically late 1800s, San Francisco Railroad being built. So obviously there was a lot of Chinese influx, and it's got tongs, it's got fighting, it's got politics, it's got manipulation. The casting is incredible. I love me some kung fu. And it, like, the hand-to-hand combat is on another level. The plots and the stories are brilliant. They are very raw. I'm embarrassed because I feel like I learn about kind of the interesting history of North America and especially the US through stuff like this. And I cannot recommend it enough because it's fun, it's deep, it's developed. Oh, so good.
The costumes and set design look amazing as well too. So
brilliant.
This could appeal to people who like period pieces and a bit of chopsaki as well.
Yeah.
Now there's a connection with Bruce Lee as well here. Apparently, it's based on some of his writings, from what I understand.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know a lot about it though. I must admit.
Gotcha. Yeah, because in the I think one of the hero images, it says based on the writings by Bruce Lee. It's like, if it's the Bruce Lee, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's so good. I cannot recommend it enough. It's 8-10 episodes a season.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, it is worth it. It is absolutely worth it. Again, like you don't find many pieces where you get good hand-to-hand, good old-fashioned martial arts. Yeah. And
so that's HBO in the States and Crave here in Canada.
Yes, sir.
So I was torn this week. I kind of have 2 picks of the week. I might cheat, but I'll do, because we're talking about cars and we were talking about TV shows and movies. Yeah. But I thought I would mention The Killer, which is David Fincher's latest. It went straight to Netflix. and it could be one of the best movies of the year. Quite honestly, it's
Is that the guy who played Magneto?
Yes, Michael Fassbender.
I love this guy.
Yeah, Michael Fassbender. He also played Steve Jobs. He played David in the Alien prequels as well, the droid. It's interesting because virtually the entire story is told from his perspective. It's entirely subjective, so there may be some unreliable narrator. There's voiceover, but it's not cheesy. It's funny, either intentionally or unintentionally in some ways. The only music he ever listens to on his iPod Mini is songs by the Smiths.
All right.
Well, he's busy, so basically, he's an assassin, and it all starts off, he's like at a WeWork space, and he's on a job, and the job goes wrong. And then when the job goes wrong, apparently when you're an assassin, you got to skedaddle, because then you could be in trouble with the people that hired you.
Yeah.
And he gets home, some stuff had happened. There's some violation at his home on the other side of the world. Then now he's out to find the people that did that. And it is very well constructed. It's not for everyone's taste. I think you're the kind of person that would appreciate it. It's pushing 2 hours. It's David Fincher. So if you're a fan of any of his other works, such as, Seven, or the controversial Alien 3, or any number of things he did. He was one of the brains behind House of Cards on Netflix, of course. So I would encourage folks to check it out. It's some people think it might be a little autobiographical in some strange way for David Fincher, as someone who is a bit of a perfectionist, has a very specific process, and you see in the Michael Fassbender
Social Network, Gone Girl, Zodiac.
Zodiac. Oh yeah,
wow.
I've seen the other two. I haven't seen Gone Girl. Zodiac I loved, and it's very subdued. Even the color grade on it. Tilda Swinton appears. It's but some people feel it's a maybe quasi autobiographical about Fincher because of the process that the assassin has, and Fincher has a very distinct process on his. He'll make someone do 100 takes of a scene to get it right.
Oh, he did the girl with the dragon tattoo. Big fan.
So that is The Killer, and that's exclusive to Netflix. So
I'm intrigued by this guy because he also did The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Right.
That is some reach.
Exactly.
All right.
And then very quickly, it's I don't have the link for it anymore. I just wanted to give a shout out to as a backup pick, Kia Canada, because we were talking about cars and EVs earlier. As folks know who've been listening and watching for a while, January 2021, I found a deal on a 2016 Kia Soul EV, which is sort of earlier EV, more of a city car, low range. When we bought it, it was getting about 100 kilometers range. The first summer, we were getting up to about 140 kilometers. It was a second vehicle for us. It was actually third. We ended up finally getting rid of one of them. So right now, it's a second vehicle for us. But when we bought it, it had 2 years of powertrain or warranty left on it that covers the battery system. And so it's got an 8-year, 160,000 kilometer warranty. And we knew we had 2 years left, and it was at 94.5% state of health. Once the state of health of the battery system went below 70%, bingo, free battery. A year later, we got it tested. It was down to 85%. It's like, okay, we got to get this below 70%. We got a year to go. December 23rd, 2023 is when the warranty expires. And then we noticed this summer, 2023, you know how batteries on laptops and phones and whatnot, they kind of go, and then they just go, they start to degrade, and then it goes off a cliff.
They plummet. Yeah.
It's exactly what happened with this. By this summer, we were getting, 90, 80, down to 70 kilometers of range. It was like, oof, that was like half of what we were getting the previous summer. So, okay, so in September, we got it checked out. It was down to 67.9% state of health, something like that. And so we're like, yep, you're getting a free battery. It's like, hallelujah. Thank you, Kia Canada. No arguments. And it took a couple of months to come in, but we just had it done a couple of weekends ago. Yep. And it's like, we got a brand new car. I mean, it's winter time, so we're getting about 120 kilometers of range at the moment. So next summer is where the proof will be in the pudding. And we don't drive gingerly, but I just couldn't be happier. It's like a
good, man. No, I love it.
So If you are buying an EV firsthand, secondhand, otherwise, pay careful attention to the battery and what it takes to get a replacement, because that is the single most expensive component of an EV is the battery pack.
How hard was it to test yours health?
Say again?
How hard is it to test the battery health?
So I never went this route, but there was an Android app called Soul Spy that you could use in conjunction with an connector from your Android phone to the OBD2 port, and you could test the battery yourself that way. Otherwise, you just take it in. Kia dealers that are used, and there's a fair number of Kia EVs now, so most of them should know how to service EVs, but they've got a computer they hook it up to, and then they can run the state of health on there. And I imagine other EV dealers have a similar approach, but I would encourage anyone buying an EV, get really clear on what your warranty terms are, and make sure to get things tested, especially when you're nearing the end of your warranty, to see if you can get a replacement.
A new replacement for that battery pack. 9-year 180 or something like that is on ours.
Nice. Yeah. It was going to be $12,000 US for new battery packs. I'd heard from some people on a Facebook group I'm on. They're doing refurbs. I'd seen them as cheap as $1,800. Still a fair chunk.
No, that's impossible. The internet says if my battery dies in my car, it's going to be $70,000. Now I have to give them my kidney and a child, and then it's going to be financed at 38%. Oh my.
To be fair, this is only a 27 kilowatt hour battery, so it's smaller than what you're going to see on Teslas and long range ones, which have a lot more mass to them.
Now they're still 10 to 12
and these things will come down over time. One will hope. And they're capturing and refurbing these battery packs, so they're trying to it's no one's interest to throw these things in the ocean or in the landfill. So that's our happy story for the fall, and it kind of ties into what we were talking about before. So thank you for humoring me, Ged. Right. So your project this week. This has been an ongoing project for you.
I don't even know if I can call it a project at this point. This is my life.
Your Waterloo.
This is my obsession. This is what keeps me up a couple nights a week.
Tell us what it is.
So this is Double Cross Sim Lounge. It is a 4,200 square foot facility in the south end of Guelph. We purchased our commercial real estate in the south end of Guelph, and we are putting 5 simulator bays in this area. There's 3 on the main floor. There's 2 on the upper level mezzanine. We have 3 main pillars. Number 1 is about supporting the people around us. So we have our own coffee. I should have brought one of my bags of coffee in by Lost Aviator. So I actually got to test out and decide on my own coffee roast, which is amazing because typically these types of places have crappy coffee. So I wanted to be different. We also partnered with Royal City Brewing. They're a local brewer in Guelph. They're not far actually from my house. And the owner there, Russ, and I have become pretty close. Is just an absolute stand-up human. Lost Aviator, the guy who started that, was a client of mine at Mini. Him and I have been friends for years. And Cafe 245, which is just down the street from where the facility is going to be, is just incredibly cool, like artisanal wrap and panini spot. So because we're not doing a restaurant, we have our relationship with them where we're going to have like a commercial panini press in there, and they're going to supply us with fresh paninis and wraps and breakfast sandwiches. However, people can bring their own food as well, as long as you don't bring your own booze. And then from a tech perspective, we are running, they're called Foresight GC Hawks. They are the absolute best product on the market. They are the absolute most expensive product on the market. They are trusted by the majority of the best players in the world. And it is just taking it to an entirely new level. The struggle has been obviously waiting for the building to get done. We were supposed to have our keys September 1st, then October 5th, then December 7th. And now we are kind of working through and waiting on a new schedule. So there's definitely been a lot of frustration, but the hype in the community around me has been so humbling. Like the support, like we have members who have signed up already, even though our building isn't done. The feedback so far on our Christmas bundle that just launched is amazing. It's like a bag of coffee, $100 gift card, one of our new hats from New Era, and kind of we're selling that to help kind of keep people excited. But last week was interesting. Sorry, I tangent there. I apologize. Because a lot of it to me has been about the feel and the vibe. And as a guy who has an AV background, this is something that I have spent more hours than I would like to admit on what we were going to do with it. So went out and did our shopping. We're going to run, obviously, Sonos through the facility. I'm going to hardwire it all so that there's no lagging or gapping. I'm going to get to run on my own wire, which is great. So we're going to run 6 Play 1s, an ARC, and a sub throughout the facility. And the main area, there'll be an 85-inch QLED. It was on sale for Black Friday, $2,500 for a full 120 85-inch QLED. Wow, the world has changed. We're going to run a 75 in between 2 booths. We have the private booth of booth 3 is going to have its own little 55. It's going to be a lot more of like an intimate space. It's going to have its own theme. It's going to kind of be tucked away in the corner. And then as you go upstairs, the 4 and then our big fitting studio 5 is going to share a 150-inch projection screen. So off the mezzanine above the washroom is this big wall. So I purchased the new Epson LS800, and I am beside myself. I'm so happy about it.
And that's a projector, I take it.
It is an ultra short throw projector. So it's a massive box that sits underneath and shoots up, and it will go upwards of 150 inches. So the hard part is actually sourcing an ultra short throw screen, because you can't use a normal screen with it. They have different like ridges and gradations on it.
Yep.
So the idea is you could be up there in either the big fitting studio or studio 4, and it's a half wall up the mezzanine. You'll be able to enjoy it. And then the funny low tech part is we've really had a lot of conversations around how do you properly service clients that, for example, are in that 3rd bay or are on that 2nd floor. And we're going to go to like an old school. I was almost inspired by like the old Ghostbusters, where we're going to install little light switches. And then in the bar, there's going to be like these domed little lights. So if someone in booth 3 who's on a date, for example, or someone who's upstairs in booth 4 is looking for a drink from us or something from us, they can literally flick the light switch in the booth, and we'll know that they would like our attention.
It's like summoning your flight attendant.
Yes, literally, exactly. And we tried to find so many neat technological advancements. And the other day I was speaking to a friend of mine, and they said, why don't you just put a light switch in? I'm like, I have no answer for that. That's literally amazing. We're going to have these little lights in there. Yeah, it is a massive project. It's definitely become more of a legacy piece than anything else.
That's, I admire your patience. I mean, that just demonstrates the extra challenges of doing things in the real world, as opposed to just like, building an online business or something like that, which has its own challenges, but real world, you end up with real world forces, physics, friction of both literal and figurative. Yeah. It's hard to find good help. It's hard to keep timelines. So I'm sure it's been a huge learning experience for you as well.
Very, very much so. Yeah, very, very much so. The business part of it, the golf part of it became the easiest part, is really navigating cities and permits and permit amendments and building permits, and then the developer and kind of struggles and challenges there with them with timelines, because our business is very seasonal, right? So as we get later and later and later, we lose more and more and more of our season
to actual real golf.
But there's still a lot of opportunity there as well. So
what's the plan for the off season? How will you be repurposing the space or doing other sorts of activities and events there while people are playing real golf?
Yeah, so we'll be open in the summer. So we're in an area, there's nothing else in our area licensed, but we are surrounded by new business in Guelph. We're actually in an area of another 50 units of new business in Guelph. So it's going to become hopefully a place where adults can just connect, because there aren't really a lot of things you can do as an adult. Like if you and I want to go do something, what can we do that doesn't involve sitting and eating and drinking? Go on, I'll wait.
Hanging out in the hot tub at the local pool?
That's sitting. What, honestly, as an adult, what can you do with another adult to connect?
Yeah, because I was going to say,
can
well, one of the
bowl.
things that we've been doing is going to the local retro arcade, but you're not really connecting a whole lot because a lot of people are just going and playing their own games. There's not that many games you can play together unless it's like Gauntlet too.
Yeah, yeah, you can bowl.
Bowl, yeah.
You can maybe go axe throwing if people still do that.
Yeah. A lot of bowling alleys are disappearing though.
That's it. So this really becomes, especially after the last few years, hopefully a catalyst for people, especially in that area of Guelph, to really connect and do something and try something different. And so we have a host of plans for the summer, whether it's junior camps, junior development camps. Because of the industry that's around us, there's great potential for the evenings, but it's definitely kept us on our toes.
Love it. Yeah.
And buying commercial real estate is no joke.
Oh, you bought real estate?
We bought our space. Correct.
You're like McDonald's. We're in the real estate business. We just happen to do golf simulation as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very painful, but it becomes a vehicle for so many positive things down the road, right?
Exactly. Well, we're really stoked for you. When do you expect launch day? I hate to ask.
My big dream is to be open for Super Bowl. Is for February 11th. It was January 30th until about 10 days ago. Yeah, well, I was hoping to push it forward and open on the 27th, which is my birthday. I thought that'd be very cool, but that is not looking likely now. So
if you want to enjoy some extra anxiety in your life, I recommend season 2 of The Bear on Disney Plus. Have you watched The Bear at all?
I have not. I feel like if it's anxiety inducing and sleep loss inducing, I feel like I've lived in season 2 of The Bear.
So we've talked about The Bear a couple of times here on Momentous Live, and it's basically season 1's about a chef at one of the top restaurants in the world who takes over his late brother's sandwich shop in Chicago and inherits all the staff, all the issues, the financial problems, et cetera, but he comes from a very different world and wants to remold it in his own image. And it's amazingly shot, it's amazingly acted. Season 2, it's like, okay, we're transforming this into like a high-end restaurant, and the whole season there's the deadline looming of when they got to launch and all the pressures so maybe it's something you want to watch after this is all said and done here, but again, it's a really good watch. You probably like notice a lot of things like, oh yeah, we had the same kind of problem.
Yeah, I have rescheduled more things than I would ever like to admit to.
Well, we look forward to having you back for an update, or preferably when it's all said and done. But maybe we'll have you before then.
I'm gonna guest from there once. I'll jump on from the mezzanine. We'll be in our studio
on location. That would be
on
amazing.
Location. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing the update on Double Cross Sim Lounge, which can be found at www.dblcrs.ca. All right, we nailed it. All right, very quickly, a couple other momentous projects this week. Our lovely and talented Tasia Custodi has another YouTube video for us, and this time it's on new updates to Google Photos. So if you're in the Google ecosystem and you use Google Photos, she'll run you through all the updates in just under 6 minutes, if you can believe it. Much tighter than our 1 hour and crazy 40-minute extravaganza here.
Yeah.
But speaking of Tasia, I don't know if you knew this, Ged, but she and I actually started another little podcast in August called AI Named This Show. So we are 14 or 15 episodes deep so far. All sorts of episodes, various AI topics. The last week was on ChatGPT's birthday and the death of AI safety. You can find that and all sorts of other interesting episodes at AINamedThisShow.com, because I have so much free time apparently that I needed to do another show.
Based on what you do for a living now, doesn't ChatGPT just do 80% of it for you?
We're working on it. You
see how I can almost speak intelligently to that now? As you know, my wife runs her own company now, right? So she does a lot of facilitation and instructional design and all that fun stuff.
We look forward to talking to her more about that. That's been on our to-do list.
She's booked until October, so
perfect. Perfect. So never mind then.
She'll always make time for you, my friend. Always.
And you can find out more about this, whatever this is, at momentous.tv. Exactly. At momentous.tv/links, you'll find links to all our socials and the podcast version of this, etc. Ged, thank you so much. It's been far too long. Thank you for joining us again. We really appreciate it. And maybe we'll have you back around somewhere in the holidays for one of our annual recap episodes. We do 2 special episodes over the holidays. So one a recap and one forward-looking, what we are looking forward to in the year ahead. So maybe one of those.
I'd like that. I'll find a box to sleep in if my building doesn't open. This will be my home soon. So,
but until then, Ged, we hope your week and your month is truly momentous.
Thank you.